What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of HBCU Huddle. I am CJ Hurt, joined alongside, for those of you who don't know, by my main man, Mike Wallace. Mike, how's everything going, baby?
Hey, it's going, man. It's going. We're in the middle of it again, another HBCU Huddle. One of my highlights of the week, man. I'm looking forward to another great show.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's going to be a great show. We will catch up with the curator of the BOXTOROW poll, Donal Ware, to discuss the polls, what stands out about the HBCU season so far. We're a quarter of a way through the season, 3 games in, so we'll talk to him and catch up with him about that. We will also discuss the new movie, The Burial, airing on Amazon Prime, starring Jamie Foxx, Journey Smollett, and a whole great cast. So we'll talk about that a little bit during this show. We'll give our picks for this week's game, take a look back at last week's picks for the game. Mike is pulling away from me some in these picks. Don't like it, but if anybody's going to beat me in these things, Mike, I'm glad that it's going to be you. But first, let's get things started. We're talking about Deion Sanders, the prime effect. It's real. It's not just an HBCU thing. It is a wherever this guy goes, it feels like if he's touching it, it's going to turn to gold or at the very least money. Yeah. Mike, when you see all of the interest in Colorado football and Coach Prime, the cultural relevance that Deion Sanders is bringing to that program, not just in the college football world, but amongst Black Americans, what stands out the most to you?
You know, just the fact that Deion bet on himself. And he said, listen, I'm going to take this same charisma that I played with, this same competitive, in-your-face nature. I'm going to call my shots. I'm going to do it my way. And I'm going to take this to every single thing that I touch, whether it's minor league baseball, major league baseball, football. We obviously know he's a Hall of Famer. And then into coaching, you know what I mean? So he still had this same type of impact at Jackson State. It just was on a lower level, right? So now when you magnify everything, again, this guy bought ESPN College Game Day to Jackson, Mississippi. Now you got the Big Noon Fox show and ESPN both in Boulder in Colorado. And he's doing it with players that are recognizable from HBCUs. I mean, Shilo Sanders obviously was a player of the year. Multiple players on Colorado came from Jackson State as well, multiple members of that staff. And then you're seeing him do it the same way, ingratiating himself with that community in Boulder. And some people, obviously, this is going to be polarizing. Some people in both segments of the communities look at it and say, hey, this is just way over the top. It's too much. You're going to either love them or loathe them. And Deion seems to be fine with striking that line between, both sides.
It's not just – I don't know which one is more impressive. Getting game day to Jackson, Mississippi for a Jackson State game or getting them to go to Boulder, Colorado for Colorado State and having us believe, like, yo, this is a really important game. This is a really big game. That game was between 2 teams who, if I say, hey, we're going to look at the decade, certainly 8 years, we're going to look at the last decade to 8 years, and we're going to do a bottom 25. Both of those programs are both of them. Colorado State hadn't had a winning season since 2017, and I don't have it pulled up in front of me. I should have. But I do believe it's something like 4-8, 3-9, another 4-8, 1-win season, 4-8, 4-8, that type of thing. And Colorado's struggles have been well documented. But last Saturday, that's the prime effect is, not only is this game important, but this game is against 2 good teams. This game features 2 quality football teams, not programs, but just the teams this year. That's what it is. And that's the salesman and the showman of Deion Sanders. After Norvell made that comment about Deion Sanders wearing glasses and hats in press conferences, Deion went online and started selling it. He said on Friday alone, he made over $1 million just in sunglass sales. ESPN PR said that Colorado versus Colorado State was the 5th most watched game ever. 9.3 million viewers. ESPN ABC's 4th best regular season game, excluding the conference championship, in 6 years. ESPN's most streamed regular season college football game of all time peaked at 11.1 million viewers. Get this, at 11 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's insane to sit down and stop and think about, but that's the effect that Deion Sanders has.
Because it goes back to me, and we talked about this. Who does this remind you of? And you brought up the comparison to this is Georgetown. John Thompson's Georgetown Hoyas in terms of the cultural impact of largely Black America pulling for this one mainstream team, right? I look at it like the Ali effect now. Oh. This is Ali selling a fight against a mid-level contender who no one's ever heard of, and he's selling it almost like it's the Thriller in Manila, right? Or he's fighting Foreman or some crazy type fight like that. These are two teams that no one gave a damn about a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, as you said, and now
2 months ago.
Or two, yeah. Well, I mean, you cared about when Prime went there, But the fact is, the game lived up to the hype, and as hard as that is to imagine, that game lived up to the hype. And if Colorado State wasn't so undisciplined, they should have won that game. 9 personal foul penalties, almost 200 yards in penalty flags. Took them. That's basically 2 end zones. That's 2 scores right there. And they lost in overtime. They should have won that game. And I think a lot of people peaked in viewing because they thought, okay, finally, this team is about to shut Prime up. And they couldn't pull it out at the end. And what we saw instead was Shilo Sanders go on a magical drive from his own 2 all the way to the end zone and just cement himself as a top 3 quarterback in the country when it comes to college football.
I guess. And this is where it gets odd. And we work in media, work on various shows, things get clipped off, get posted online. And I've seen it firsthand where any critique, any negative critique, justified or not, is met with immediate backlash from the Black community in a way that I find really, really interesting. Because I can say, and I have said, a lot of mean things about these coaches, Black, white, whatever. If I think you're underperforming, I will say you're underperforming. But if you say Coach Sanders, Coach Prime is underperforming, oh, who is this dude? Take his black card, got to get him up out of here. And I think that it is really, really interesting to see that, because I'm a Michigan fan. Marcus Freeman coaches at Notre Dame. I hate Notre Dame. Therefore, I sports hate. I sports hate Notre Dame. Therefore, I sports hate Marcus Freeman. Right. Black man coaching at one of the highest profile jobs in the sport, and I just can't bring myself to like him because he's wearing the wrong color. Sports hate. I understand the significance that plays in our society in college football. I am a champion of hiring Black coaches at the FBS Power 5 level. That one I just don't like, and it's silly, it's goofy. But what have
it's
you.
Real.
It's real. But I will say bad things about Freeman. No response. If I suggest, or if it is suggested, hey, Colorado is not very good. Bow, here it is. Here we come. And we have, as I'm saying, we as a Black community, we have rallied around this program, much like Georgetown, much like Ali. And I'm trying to think of a coach or a program in my lifetime. Georgetown was at the middle of its, it peaked. And it was just sustained by the time
that was 80s. That was mid-80s.
And so I snapped 2 in the 90s. Coach Thompson's still around. Georgetown still matters. But I wasn't here for the rise of Georgetown. I was not alive for Ali. I can't think of, in my lifetime, born in the late 80s, I can't think of an entity in sports that has made us rally around.
I can. See, you're not giving yourself enough credit. You're not giving yourself nearly enough credit. I could tell you one that came into fruition during your formative years.
Okay.
Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods. No one galvanized, like Black America didn't even really pay attention to golf by and large. But if Tiger was on, even if you never watched golf or followed golf, you felt a need to rally behind Tiger because he was the only one representing the race at that point, the culture, to a certain degree. I'm not saying everyone, but I'm saying that phenomenon, right? That okay, this is going to be the representation of us on this stage.
Here's where I'll push back on Tiger.
And I would also say the Williams sisters. Yes.
The Williams sisters, you're right. I will push back on Tiger in that it to me, and this is one of the many things that I have grappled with as a Black man in America, it didn't feel like Tiger was
loved us back,
proud to be black or wanted to be black. And so that's the only thing I'll push back on. Deion Sanders is out here like, yo, y'all aren't used to a black man being this, being this confident, this articulate, this good at his job, and so it's making you uncomfortable.
Which is disingenuous, but for Deion. But yes, go ahead. Point made.
He's a coach. Like that's what they got to do. Yeah. But Tiger always seemed to kind of shy away from that part of the conversation, whereas Coach Sanders has embraced it and is using it to help generate the interest. I think the Williams sisters are an example also. So I think the Williams sisters, Venus and Serena, I was around and cognizant and followed their careers all the way through. I remember when Serena was teenager. I remember Venus first, and my father sitting us down, and we would watch Venus play, and then every now and then you get a Venus and Serena championship match, and it would be, they don't want to play each other, they're not trying hard. And my father used that to try and teach us, hey, there are some things bigger than winning and championships. It's family. And I look at him like, no, it's not. If I'm out there, I'm going to try and hit you in the face with a serve. Let's go. We're going to battle out here. But so I was around for them, and I think they fit into that. But I guess in team sports, we'll say then. Because those are individuals.
Those are individuals,
and in team sports, I can't think of anything that we rallied.
That makes sense.
Maybe Kaepernick, but Kaepernick didn't get to play anymore. And so that was a different sort of thing.
Yeah, that was a different thing. I also think it's and I said disingenuous, I use that word because I think Deion is trying to make it about race when it really isn't as much about race. I think it's more about culture. I think it's more about swag. I think it's more about in your face, more so than it is about, because again, for him to say you're not used to a black man being in this position doing this kind of thing this way, he's trying to make himself unique, and he's trying to make himself into something that I don't think, again, this is only about race because, number one, he's taking a large amount of attention, focusing it on himself and his team, and he's doing it in a place that hasn't been accustomed to that kind of Colorado had 3 black coaches in his last 4 hires. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Including the guy that went on to Michigan State that just lost his job. Mel Tucker. And then obviously Darrell was before Deion, and now Deion. So it's not like Colorado hasn't been like this. They haven't been this in your face. And Deion is bringing the cameras because of his Hall of Fame resume and all of those things. This is about Deion, not necessarily about race. But then when you add race into it, and people who are there are a lot of people who some of that backlash came from some prominent black intellectuals as well too. I shared with you a tweet that came from Dr. Greg Carr, who's a preeminent social activist voice at Howard University. And he spoke out and he said, basically, I don't want any part of this buffoonery that's going on at Colorado. Don't put this on HBCUs. Don't put this on all black people, because there are a lot of black people who say, that ain't us. That's not me. That doesn't represent me.
It's hard. It's absolutely racial. Right now, I don't want to get, I feel like I'm going to get off into semantics, but this is
we get off on tangents, but not semantics.
Yeah, semantics, because
tangents.
People losing arguments hit you with the semantics. It's your, not your. Like, okay, calm down. You know what I mean? But I think in this case, it's an important distinction.
Yeah, speak your piece.
Where it is, okay, this is absolutely, like, you can't help but notice the black people doing this thing here in this way. Right now, it's racial. I've seen it get racist, though. I've seen it make that shift where it becomes, oh, no. Some of these comments, and Twitter is a cesspool. The comment section is a cesspool of depravity on anything, right? But if you go through there, it feels oddly racist. It feels like, okay, some of these comments are, I can't wait for this black man to get his comeuppance. How dare he think he's this good? How dare this program think they're this good? Like, they are going to celebrate, not the fact that, not sports hate, right? Not celebrate the loudmouth getting a loss. No, we're going to celebrate this black man's failure because black people aren't supposed to be this. That's some my critiques, your critiques, others' critiques of this program. Like, I don't think it's unfair to say, hey, that offensive line
It's suspect.
That leaves something. That offense and defensive line
don't
is
run
suspect.
the ball at all.
They don't run the ball at all. This team is not built very well. And while you did do a good job in the transfer portal, I question the depth that is on Colorado's roster. And that is a fair question. But to call them, I've seen things like, hey, they're behaving like animals. Like, oh, whoa. Wait a second.
You know what, though?
That makes me uneasy, and that's where it turns from a racial thing to a racist sort of thing. If I'm making any sort of sense.
No, you are, and we can obviously do an entire HBCU huddle on this, and I know we got other stuff to move on to, but I'll say this and kind of leave that as my last caveat on it. There's going to be ignorance out there, right? Like how much of that is going to catch your attention is a you challenge, not more so than a it exists challenge, right? Like. Do you realize for it to be 9.3 million people watching and supporting ESPN's broadcast, there's a lot of people that are rooting for Colorado who are white, right? I mean, that's just the stadium is packed with largely white people, right? So there's going to be some of that because whoever that idiot was, the example you gave, is probably going to put him into any other arena. He's going to say the same thing because that's a racist, right? But the most fair critique and criticism of Deion, I don't believe is centered around race. I think it's more centered around how he does it and the type of hypocrisy that some have raised, right? And the kind of people that you're surrounding yourself with. Even Mark Jones, and I know Mark Jones. I've worked with him. I consider him a colleague and a friend in a business. Who was on the broadcast, right? With Louis Riddick, who I thought did an excellent job. Louis Riddick is my guy, man.
That broadcast?
Yes.
Incredible.
Yes.
Incredible.
My only concern and my only criticism was when Mark Jones came out and said, man, it's like a cross between the BET Awards and a college football playoff game on the sideline. What do you mean a BET Awards, right? Like, I mean, if a white announcer had said that, it would have been tremendous backlash against him making gross stereotypes about the sideline, right? But Mark Jones was safe in making that because he's a black man. That's a level of hypocrisy that exists when it comes to how much we embrace the culture with how much we can hold the culture accountable for some things that we might not agree with. It's one of those things.
Could he have said hip hop award? Could he have said?
He could have said that.
Rap
he could have said, but it's more so in this day and age. This gotcha day and age is more about who said it instead of and more so than what was said. Because he said it, he could say BET Awards. He can make he can cast a wide net and say, hey, it looks like the BET Awards going on down there. But I guarantee you, if someone else had said, if Kirk Herbstreit had said that, he would have had some level of backlash. It would have been, what do you mean by that, right? But because Mark said it, it was, oh man, he's black, so he's licensed to say that. And I think that's where we are. I wouldn't have characterized it like that. I would have gone more so it's a hip hop award show or something like that.
The hip hop artists were there.
Yeah, the hip hop artists were there.
Quavo was there. Other Wu-Tang Clan was there the week before, like that.
Yeah.
The way that this program and the way
that
Glock
was there. Glock was there. Master P was there.
The way that this program, Colorado, has embraced
and Weezy, obviously,
rappers.
Weezy was there.
Lil Wayne was there. The way that this program has embraced rappers and allowed them access to the locker room and on the sideline. The way Coach Prime has done it.
Yeah.
He was doing this at Jackson State. It does feel like, oh, this is a hip hop team. Georgetown felt that way also. The Fat Five felt that way.
Yeah.
It's not the only ones to feel that way, but they're
good examples, yeah.
This feels like a hip hop sort of thing. This feels like a rap thing.
Yeah.
So I think that, not to push back too much on this because don't want to get off on this tangent.
Yeah.
But it would sound corny coming from Herbstreit. I don't think it would be any sort of like backlash.
Oh, man.
Justified backlash.
He wouldn't have made that. He would have been. Herbstreit is smart enough to not put himself in that kind of way where it would even be considered, hey, do I need the benefit of the doubt on this?
Yeah.
Whereas it just flowed from Mark Jones like, hey, man, I've been waiting to say this one.
Yeah.
Let me get this one off my chest. But yeah, there we go.
All right. Well, beautiful thing about Coach Prime, like you said, we could have done an hour and a half on just his effect and his impact. And what that means from a cultural standpoint, and what that means for HBCUs. There's a lot of different angles you can take on.
They're
this
honorary HBCU program.
and why I hate that title. We could have done all of that, but we got to get to Donald. We got to get to the picks. We've got great culture maker for you this week as well. And the beautiful thing about Coach Deion Sanders is he's not going away for a long, long time, baby. He's going to be around, dog. So we'll get the pick back up right here next time. He does something spectacular.
Yeah,
next time,
give it 5 minutes.
Something give him 5 minutes. I do 2.5 if you mess around with Ron. All right, on the other side, we'll be talking to Donald Ware. You're listening to HBCU Huddle right here on Grind City Media.
On Saturday, October 21st, AEW is on the road to full gear.
You gotta be kidding me!
Will you be there live when AEW Collision makes its debut at the FedEx Forum?
I want to pick a fight, and you will give me what I want!
Saturday nights are right for fighting.
The best professional wrestling company in the entire world!
And you never know who might just show up.
What a moment!
Don't miss AEW Collision for the first time ever at the FedEx Forum. Get your tickets now at AEWTix.com. Cards subject to change.
Everyone's favorite shoe is a friggin' Travis Scott. I feel like everyone loves these shoes. Not these ones, but there's another Travis Scott collab released or scheduled for 2024. Can you hear the excitement in my voice?
They are doing everything they can to build up the hype.
I think these are going to flop.
I think these are so ugly.
Flopperooski.
The Sneak Fest Show, live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
First, I wanted to talk about WWE Monday Night Raw in Memphis. The King shows up, waves at the crowd, has tears in his eyes, introduced by Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and he has a beard.
A gray beard.
A gray beard. I've never seen Jerry Lawler with facial hair other than the little crown, and I think he had to color most of that in to make it look like a crown.
Check out Dustin 5-Star and Eric E. Rock McMahon on Grind City Media Wrestling weekly on the Grind City Media app and on the Grind City Media YouTube channel.
It's time.
Live across North America, Adam Sandler.
It's going to be our kind of night here.
Joking.
One more cartwheel and out!
Singing.
You guys want to get funky? Let's get funky together.
Funkin'.
I've been thinking about you. One zip. Oh, shit, man.
FedEx Forum, November 16th. The I Missed You Tour. Get tickets now at livenation.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Please be joined by family member, first cousin, curator of the BOXTOROW Media and Coaches Poll, Donal Ware. Donal, how's everything going, man?
CJ, Mike, what's going on, fellas? Y'all doing okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're doing good. We're doing real good. We spent all of last segment talking about the prime effect in Colorado and what it's like seeing that transition, because he was doing that at Jackson State, what it was like seeing that sort of style and excitement and fervor be transferred following him from Jackson State to Colorado. What stands out to you about Deion Sanders' time in Colorado so far?
It's great. I mean, it's galvanized the nation. I mean, I know college football is popular, but now you're talking about Deion Sanders being at a bigger school. And I was reading somewhere where like the black audience in terms of watching college football, specifically Colorado and Deion Sanders, is like way up. So, obviously he's huge in the black community, but across college football as well. I think you guys know that I'm on record. I maybe some of the things I didn't particularly like, some of the things that he said, but all in all, I like Deion. And really, man, I found myself, like, when he was on game day the other day, I just found myself smiling at a lot of the stuff he was saying. Even me, it's great. I'm enjoying it.
Donald, I mean, it's obviously part of his shtick, part of his act. It is who he is, and he's done that. He's not trying to be anything other than what he was. He was this same way coming into Jackson State. And I remember you were one of the first national voices from the HBCU level that questioned how he kind of conducted himself and some of the things that he brought to light in a way that didn't necessarily sit well with a lot of the older school HBCU community in terms of, being overly critical without understanding the culture and understanding, what goes into how HBCUs are operated and run. So the level of, is it an unsafe place? And and I'm asking this because I read some things from Dr. Carr, Howard University's sociologist, who's well spoken on HBCU culture and issues. But he basically said, look, this doesn't represent us. They put out a video of the Colorado Buffalo with a chain on and sunglasses. And basically somebody said this was like HBCU gone to the Power 5 type thing. Is there space to be critical? And it was a black person that tweeted that, right? So is there a safe space where you can call Deion out on some of the stuff that's going on there and still feel like, hey, you're not crossing a line that you should be, kicked out of the black community, so to speak?
I think so. I mean, I did it. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I think so. But I think that may be a little bit overboard trying to correlate, some of the things maybe that, that to your point, that's Deion as a whole. That's how he's been. So, I don't think I don't think there should be a correlation between, HBC and maybe what he did at Jackson State to what he's doing at Colorado. Again, my only beef was some of the things he said. Other than that, he brought a lot of awareness, obviously, to Jackson State, to the SWAC, to HBCU as a whole, which is still residual. Again, I think what he's doing at Colorado has galvanized college football. We see again, ESPN Game Day in Colorado, a big deal made about the Oregon game upcoming, where Colorado's a huge underdog, in that game. So, I don't like that particular correlation. But to your point, it's who he is and it's what he's done.
Donald, I'm right there with you. I get that it's hard. I know, because I did it, right? Where you're the one of a handful of black people in this white space. And so you're seeking out camaraderie. And so you do form your own sort of friend group, which is basically all the black people at the school or at the job or what have you. And it does feel very much like family, much like HBCUs do. And I know that that's hard to do. And I know that that is difficult for everybody to go through, being the only one in a room. But calling Colorado the P5 HBCU or giving them that sort of moniker, nickname, it irks me because we have HBCUs. We have that. And if you feel that strongly about wanting to be amongst your people, then that's where you should have went. You chose to go to a PWI. Like you got to be in the PWI. I remember Blackish, when Blackish was on and real big, the various black student organizations, like the black SGAs of various prominent universities, they had HBCU-ish shirts in their schools. Like Syracuse had it in orange, and I think like maybe Delaware had it in blue or whatever their colors were. It was like, oh no, I don't like that. I don't like that at all, because we have HBCUs, and that's
you could have gone.
You could have come here. Now I know everything is different for everybody. If you don't get money to go to school, I understand. It makes sense. I'm not trying to penalize anybody, disparage anybody for saying, you know what, I got money to go to Southern Miss. I didn't get any money to go Alcorn State, so I chose to go like that's. I'm not trying to disparage you. I understand that is a business when it's all said and done. But to try and take the HBCU moniker even playfully, I don't appreciate that. I don't like that.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Yeah. Go ahead, Donald.
No, I agree. I totally agree. And for those, there were those that didn't agree with him leaving Jackson to go to Colorado. Like, why? It's a natural progression, and something that I've been talking about, because I think the problem is, and this is another conversation, but the other question could be, does Deion Sanders at Colorado in his success help other black coaches? I don't know if that is in fact the case, because it's Deion Sanders, right?
Yes.
So it's bigger than the black and white deal, in my opinion. But for him, listen, it was the right move as far as I'm concerned for him to go to Colorado from Jackson State. He did. How much more can you do? He didn't win a HBCU national championship, obviously, but he's on a level now where he has an opportunity, maybe not this year, but in the future, to win a FBS national championship. I love my school, right? To each his own. There may be some that are at our level, that are at our schools that may want to be at our schools. I'm all for that too, if that's what you want to do. But if you want to take it to another level and win an FBS or an overall a big college national championship, I have no problem with that.
Donald, we'll move on to other topics, but I do want to say this. I think what and it doesn't get lost because it does get covered extensively. But to me, as much of this that has been made about Deion, the joy I get about this entire transition is seeing what Shedeur is doing on that stage.
Before I don't want to cut you off. I don't want to, but I am doing it. I'm sorry. I apologize. Watching Shilo.
I love this banter.
Watching Shilo run that interception back for a touchdown, I squealed with glee. Like that just made me so happy to see. Go ahead, Mike. I apologize.
No, but I mean, like you know, Shilo is a guy. He's a graduate transfer, so like he could have tried the NFL last year coming out of Jackson State. Seriously thought about doing it, and remember, he was a late addition to go to Colorado. So maybe this gives him a chance to increase his profile and draft stock potentially as well. But I think what this is about, as much as Deion's bombastic nature and all the storylines and all of those things, we are really seeing a young man in Shedeur come into fruition in a lot of ways. And see, the thing is, America went crazy when Peyton Manning followed Archie. And then Eli came along, and it was like, wow, this is like the prodigal son times 2. And I want to see Shedeur get that same, because the numbers he's putting up and what he's doing, again, Nebraska, Colorado State, he did it against TCU as well, too. He can do it at any level, at any point. And as much as Deion, this is about, yes, black coaches can do it at any level, at any point, if they're given the resources. Yeah. The same is true for the players. And I think Shedeur's story, to me, is going to be always the most important part that I gravitate towards. And that's why I watch Colorado. Not necessarily because Deion, I've seen that. But Shedeur and what his maturation and what those guys are doing means a lot. As good as Colorado's been at 3-0, they're not in your top 10 poll, the HBCU poll, right?
Transition. What a transition.
And they are not in the coaches or –
if there was an honorary HBCU, they might get ranked.
They might get ranked.
An
honorary spot in the Box to Row HBCU National Media and Coaches poll. But there is some dissension. There is some controversy now because you have a split between the coaches looking at – FAMU is number 1, and the media is still giving North Carolina Central number 1. Donald, I know that you curate. You basically gather everybody's vote, make sure everybody's turning their ballots in on time, and you produce it from Box to Row. But does this surprise you at all that it came out this way this week with FAMU number 1 in the media poll and North Carolina Central number 1 in the coaches poll?
A little bit. I'm not. If you're asking me if I'm surprised that the coaches are saying that Central still should be number 1, I'm not surprised because the coaches realize it's hard to win, especially you're going up against the number 24 team in the country. You lose that game, but you're still the defending HBCU national champs, and you won your 2 previous games, including a rivalry game handily against North Carolina A&T. So that doesn't surprise me. I am a little bit surprised in the media poll, but I realize the media doesn't see it that way. Maybe they see it in a way where if you play the game, be competitive. Let's look at Howard. Howard lost that first game against, and I realize it's a different level with Eastern Michigan. Howard lost that first game, still ended up in the top 10 and got, plenty of votes. So, I am a little bit surprised that the media saw it that way. For me, if it were me, I would not penalize North Carolina Central for losing to UCLA. I think maybe if it had been a little bit more competitive, then the media may have seen it a little bit differently. Media-wise, a little bit surprised, but not shocked.
I think that it's the same. That thought process is why Morgan State is in the rankings. When you say, okay, Morgan State barely lost to a FBS opponent in Akron, lost by 3, and then played a pretty good FCS team in Townsend, and didn't put on a bad show.
But also beat Richmond, which is ranked at
Richmond,
FCS, right.
that's ranked or was ranked at the time. So Morgan State gets in there this time of the year for me, it's impossible to rank these schools because of the way that the schedules shake out, because you've got 1 or 2 bye games. You've got some teams playing quality opponents at their own level. Other teams are trying to get wins over D2 HBCUs.
Yeah.
It's just hard to balance it all out. So that's why I look forward to the conference slate of games. Because, like, okay, it's like on like at this point, we really get a chance to take a look at it and see who's good and who's not. Donald, when you look at it, it looks like we're shaping up for a Florida A&M, North Carolina Central Celebration Bowl. Who stands in the way of making that happen? Teams, players, circumstances, anything of the sort?
Yeah, I think more so, the SWAC is wide open. I don't know that there are any teams that are going to be able to beat Florida A&M this year. The way that is shaking out, I mean, you look at a Southern who was, projected to win. I mean, yeah, they got a good win or a decent win this past week, but did not beat Alabama State. Things could change. But if I look in the MEAC, I think almost any team could challenge. I look at Norfolk State. I'll give you an example. Norfolk State. Now, we can look at it. We can say, that was a bad loss that Norfolk State had to Virginia State. And maybe it was. But guess what? The very next week against a rival school, they bounced back and won that game, to which that rival school then turned around and beat a good Howard team the following week. So I'm not sleeping on Norfolk State. I think Dawson Odoms is an excellent coach. Shouldn't have slipped up against Virginia State. But again, that's a rivalry game in of itself. Going back to the CIAA, it's a Labor Day Classic. Virginia State's got a good program. Morgan State can still challenge. I would say to you, with respect to Morgan State, they wouldn't be this week in my top 10 because they lost to a like program, having beat a like program 2 weeks ago. That said, that's an elite defense. Morgan State's got an elite defense. I think Howard will bounce back from its loss to Hampton. So I think those couple of teams I mentioned right there could challenge North Carolina Central. Honestly, right now, the way the SWAC is playing out and shaping out, and the way that FAMU is playing, remember, they put up a good fight against South Florida, beat Jackson State pretty thoroughly, took care of business against West Florida. I realize it's Division II. I'm not sure that there's any team right now that can challenge Florida A&M.
That's a great point. I do think Florida A&M is playing the best so far that we've seen, top to bottom. But I still think in my ballot, I still had North Carolina Central up there because I don't discount you for going across the country, playing a top-ranked team as my ballot goes up right there. And now there's going to be some changes moving forward from there. But shout out to Benedict. I thought Tennessee State proved something to me against Gardner-Webb, winning on that last-second field goal to go to 2-1. That's back-to-back wins for them. Eddie George can turn a corner, and we'll see from there. But, Donald, we'll get you out of here on this one, man, and definitely appreciate your time. As you go, we're looking at the first quarter of the HBCU season. Give me one of your biggest storylines that have come out that you're encouraged by, and then one of the teams that you're most concerned about right now through 4 weeks.
Allen University. Two. Can I give it two? Allen University. I don't think people are talking about Allen enough. 3-0 right now. David Wright as the quarterback has been really good. He had a 411-yard performance, 5 touchdowns, and he did throw 2 picks, but he brought Allen all the way back from 4 touchdowns down in the third quarter to beat Kentucky State. And that's not a bad Kentucky State team. So I like them. I like West Virginia State. I think this may be the year. Now, they got a tough game, homecoming game on Saturday against Glenville State, who is also 2-0 in the Mountain East Conference. But I really like what West Virginia State is doing. And listen, Donovan Riddick, the quarterback, he is the truth. Be on the lookout for him. He is an excellent player. He's thrown for, I think he's coming up probably, he had back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons. So he's thrown for over 5,000 yards in his career through 3 seasons. And then right now he's on pace to, probably to throw for like 2,500. Disappointing. Maybe Alabama A&M. I thought Alabama A&M, would be a little bit better, a little bit further on than, it currently is right now. I mean, if I had to say a team, it probably would be them. Am I a little bit surprised by South Carolina State? Nah, because they played a couple of FBS opponents. I think they may be able to turn it around. But if I had to tell you a team that maybe I thought would do a little bit more and hasn't to this point, it probably would be Alabama A&M.
That is Donald Ware at DWare1 on Twitter, also at BOXTOROW, all one word on there as well. He's a curator of the BOXTOROW Media and Coaches Poll. He's our first cousin. Donald, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Always, cousins. Appreciate you guys. Love what you guys are doing. Keep up the great work.
Hey, likewise, brother. Likewise.
All right, Donald Ware, ladies and gentlemen. We've got more great stuff to come. We'll talk about the art. We'll pick some games. We'll talk about our culture maker and so much more coming up next. You're listening to HBCU Huddle right here on Grind City Media.
Game number 1 at FedEx Forum, the home opener. The New Orleans Pelicans.
They've put New Orleans in the last couple of seasons in some key matchups, put them on national TV. They're trying to develop that rivalry between these two teams that are so close together.
Hey, Grizzlies fans, be sure to tune in to Grizbeat, where the panel and I break down all things Grizzlies and take a look at the rest of the NBA as well. The show is live every Wednesday, 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
The most anticipated rock holiday tradition returns. Trans-Siberian Orchestra, live in concert. December 14th, FedEx Forum. Tickets on sale now at livenation.com. A legendary blend of rock, classical, and holiday music for the entire family. Don't miss Trans-Siberian Orchestra, live in concert. The Ghosts of Christmas Eve.
I don't think I've ever had to count calories in my life, and oh my God, it's squeegee day! I don't know if I can continue a show. Like, instead of paying for therapy, I think I could just sit and watch a window be squeegeed and, like, repeat a mantra to myself, and I might be cured.
It is very zen.
Tune in to the Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt, live every weekday at 8 a.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Here's the SEC. The Georgia Bulldogs lead in that one, of course, as well. They are the only minus at minus 115. Alabama plus 240. How many years in a row do we have to talk about Alabama needing a quarterback? They lost a lot of guys to the NFL. They switched coordinators. How are they going to rebound and respond to all this adversity? And then they come out and win a national championship.
The Odds Couple with Rob Fisher, Lang Whitaker, John Roser, and CJ Hurt, live Thursdays at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Welcome back. Let's get to the pick six. Let's hop right in it. I'm 11-7 overall, Mike. Mike is 13-5 overall. Just
separation?
Yeah, you're pulling away. You've had a couple.
You had a
of
bad
weeks.
week this last week, then, huh?
I can't get off of 500. I've been 3-3 the past couple of weeks, whereas you have been 4-2. One game makes a big difference.
It does. When you're only picking six.
It's 3-3 sounds like okay.
Yeah.
4-2 is like wow, 4-2. But it's only one game difference.
That's it.
Let's take a look at last week's picks and talk about anything that may stand out to you. Mike, let's get him up. Mike, you had some interesting picks. Obviously, they were interesting. They were good picks.
Yeah.
You went 4-2. I think the games that tripped me up on last week, if I can, I can't remember them.
No.
All the ones I messed up on. It was a lot.
No, we got them here. I'm going to them right now too.
Let me see if I can find
Oh,
there we go.
We got
there.
it
Is.
Okay.
So Howard over Hampton was one that you missed. Jackson.
And that was a shootout. That ended up being a 1-point shootout right there. Mm-hmm. Hampton got the last second score in that shootout to beat Howard, their rivalry of the real HU, battle of the real HU. UAPB over Miles. Miles had that game won. A last second field goal won it for UAPB. So they were able to hold off Miles in that situation. I'm cool on that. Benedict took care of business over Lane, as you see there. Man, Jackson State was fool's gold in that game right there. They gave up 77 to a fellow FCS team.
Scored 35.
They scored 35, but they didn't stop anybody on that situation. So they got blown out. That was an embarrassing loss there. And they got to come back and make things right when they get home this coming weekend. Southern over Alabama A&M, it was about damn time that Southern got something going, and kudos to them. Donald said Alabama A&M is one of the most disappointing teams so far through the first quarter. And kudos to Tennessee State. Another field goal, got it done. They came back, kicked the field goal in the final seconds to beat Gardner-Webb at home. They won their first traditional home game there at Nissan Stadium. So Tennessee State 2-1. They were up in the top 5 in my poll this week. They didn't make the national poll, but they were up in the top 5 in my ballot. I think one more win next week, if they can get one, they should be fine.
As we take a look at mine and see where I messed up, Texas State is, I had to double check this, they're FBS.
They are. They did move up. They moved up. They moved up. Okay. San Marcos. I've been there, man. I've been on that campus, went to one of their games a long time ago, right outside of San Antonio.
I hit on Hampton over Howard. That's just got lucky. But that was a fun game to sit down and watch. I thought Miles, after their upset win over one of Alabama schools, was it State? I think it was Alabama State. I thought Miles would have enough to get past UAPB,
and they almost
did. They almost did. Congratulations to the Golden Lions on getting a win for themselves. And I think when we'll look back at it, I think it'll be a quality win over a good D2 program. Benedict over Lane was easy money.
Yeah.
I don't know what is going to stand between Benedict and another conference championship and another trip to the D2 playoffs. I think for them, complacency becomes a thing.
Yeah.
Not falling complacent, not expecting to win while still putting in the effort to do so. And their season is much bigger than just, hey, let's win the conference.
Yep.
They've got to go in the playoffs and
do some damage.
Something.
They had a top seed going into the Division II playoffs last year and lost at home, man. Like they got to look, and that just tells you, I don't want to say that there's a difference in quality, but at a certain point, if you're an elite team, no matter where you are, you gotta step up. And they're doing it so far.
You got to be elite. You've got to be great to get to elite, and they continue to be
great. Sure.
Now it's for them, the elite thing has got to be on their mind. Southern saved their season. I thought this loss would have tanked everything for them. They went out there and saved their season. I'm with Donald. There are a handful of teams, players, that's coaches, that sort of thing, that have been kind of surprisingly disappointing. Alabama A&M is one of those for me. I took Texas State over Jackson State.
Yeah, you got it right. The graphic is twisted a little bit, but you got it right.
So I took Texas State over Jackson State. And then I took Gardner-Webb over TSU. Shout out Eddie George and the Tennessee State Tigers for that quality win over a conference foe. As we shift now, let's take a look at this week's games. First up, we're doing this one against the spread because while I don't like calling them honorary HBCU, it's fine.
The team.
Whatever.
Not the school.
Whatever.
Not the school.
Whatever. Let's get Mike's picks up. Oregon minus a 21 versus Colorado. Mike, who do you got in that one?
I got Colorado. I'm gonna ride with them. I don't feel great about it. Like I think this is the week that they'll come back down a little bit and collapse. And I think Oregon really wants to prove and put that whammy on Colorado. And I think this is the week that they probably will do it. But for consistency's sake, I'm going to stick with Shador, my guy, and go with Colorado to keep this thing going. If they can keep it within 3 touchdowns, we got a shot.
What about UAPB, Alabama A&M?
Hey, Alabama A&M, this is their season. This is their season. Every week is somebody else's season.
Yep.
This is their season. They got to get it done. I think they pull it off against UAPB.
Prairie View A&M and Alcorn State?
Our men's. Now that our men's have finally got the hard part of their schedule, the non-conference part of their schedule out of the way, they got a nice win against McNeese. I think now they started to make their run in that wide open SEC West. I'm going with our men's, our guy, Fred McNair and Alcorn State.
SWAC West. The men's are going to go to the Krogers and get them some Gatorades. Fam, you over Alabama State, says you, Mike Wallace.
Easy one right there. Willie Simmons just needed to keep the guys going. Musa, just don't get hurt. Just keep this season magical, and you should be able to win that one.
What about Valley State versus North Carolina Central?
The only reason why I put this one on our pick six this week is because it's the Circle City Classic.
Yeah.
So they'll be taking this game up to Indianapolis, one of the best run classics that you're going to see in the country. North Carolina Central wins this one easily.
And last but not least, certainly not least, you got one, Tuskegee.
Yep.
versus Lane. Who you got?
Hey, listen, man. I'm going with Tuskegee, 3-0. They're in my top 10 of the HBCU poll, national media poll. Your guys are legit, man. I think it's a collision course right now between, Benedict and Tuskegee, right? So we'll see if that ends up being what decides the SIAC. But I like Tuskegee over Lane right now.
And of course, we already talked about it. You're taking Colorado plus the 21.
Yep.
Against.
It was 20 and a half a day ago.
Yeah.
So now it's even further up. Yeah.
21 against Oregon. And what that means for those of you who might not know, we're picking that game against the spread. If Colorado loses by 20, Mike wins. If they lose by more than 21, Mike loses. If they lose by 21, it's a push. He gets a tie. So there's a chance for you to get a tie this week, Mike. Taking a look at mine, we can start with, I think I started with Colorado, Oregon. I took Colorado plus the 21.
Okay.
I think this is a team that should go out there and get drugged by Oregon. And listen, man, it's just, there's not a lot of depth. That is the question that I have about Colorado. One of the many questions. Well, no, the question I have is the depth. I know that the trenches aren't very good. Mm-hmm. They aren't what you would want.
They started a true freshman at center.
Yeah,
under Shador. So,
that's not where you want it to be. And Shador is facing pressure some plays almost instantaneously.
Yeah.
And it's not a lot of blitzing or a lot of stunts. It's just dudes getting beat. 3-man rush, 4-man rush. Against the top teams at the FBS ranks, and I think Oregon is one of those teams nearer the top, that's going to come up to bite them in the butt. However, I say all of that to say, I can't bring myself to bet against Prime.
You can't, man. There's a magical element. There's a magic element to them, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. So that's why I'm going Colorado plus the
plus
21.
When you give me 21. Yeah.
21.
Which is Prime's jersey number. So there's something to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Shiloh's number.
Yep.
So,
yep. Alabama A&M over Pine Bluff for me. I think this is a chance for A&M to bounce back. Pine Bluff, we talked about escape against Miles. Keep an eye on Terrell Gardner. He's being targeted on about 31% of the Bulldogs snaps at receiver. Davis, the running back who played so well here at the Southern Heritage Classic for Pine Bluff, ended up getting FCS freshman of the week honors. Did not have a great game last time out. Maybe I would expect him to bounce back. Interestingly, in that game Alabama A&M played last week, they were held to minus 17 yards rushing. So they'll have to get that figured out. It should be a competitive game betwixt the two. Not sure how good, but I will roll with the Bulldogs over that one. I'm not betting against Alcorn State and Coach McNair. That's my guy. Those are my men's. Give me those. Alabama State, Florida A&M. I'm with you, Mike. I will take FAMU. Musa is a top 15 quarterback at the FCS level. He is top 15 in yards per game with about 265 yards per game. The next closest player at the HBCU level is Southern's quarterback Harold Blood, and he's about 40 yards away. Keep an eye on Marcus Riley, another stud receiver, this one for Florida A&M. They started slowly against a D2 opponent. The score was 3-3 at halftime last week, but they ended up blasting them 31-10. When they decide they want to flip the switch, they'll flip it. Bama State, I will say, they're coming off a bye week. They got an early bye week. So this game might get a little squirrely for the Rattlers, but I still think they have enough in the tank to beat Bama State, whose last game was against Miles, and Miles knocked them off. D2 Miles knocked off FCS Alabama State. I will also take North Carolina Central in the Circle City Classic, and I need to get my ass up there to Indianapolis for this classic because, like you said, it's one of the better run classics in the nation, and I'll never not take a Golden Tiger. Love me Tuskegee over Lane. Let's do it.
There you go.
Let's get it going. All right, before we get out of here.
Well, hold up, CJ. Like with this, hey, listen, we all agreed on all of our picks. So you're not going to lose any ground. You're not going to lose any ground, so we're good. That's good. That's going to be a good week for you no matter what.
Thank goodness. Or a bad week for both of us, which, again, I don't lose any ground. That's great.
Win-win. It's a
win-win for us. This week's Culture Maker, The Burial movie coming out on Amazon Prime in October, starring Jamie Foxx, also Journey Smollett. You got Tommy Lee Jones in it. It premiered at the Toronto International Film Fest. on September 11th to some acclaim. I think it got nominated for a couple of awards at the Toronto International Film Fest at TIFF. I need to get to TIFF. Speaking of things I need to get to here, that's a great time. It'll be streaming on Prime October 13th. Limited release October 6th, so a week before that. Looks like it's going to be good, Mike.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's obviously Jamie Foxx. There's been a lot of speculation about his health and where he's been and what's he been up to, but he's going to come back out in a major way with this movie right here. It's about a lawyer, a litigation specialist who's a North Carolina Central alum.
Okay.
And this man is one that took on big corporations, and he did it with sort of a Johnny Cochran kind of flair, right?
Yeah.
Took on some racial elements and all of those kind of things. But it's one of those movies where, again, you look at Jamie Foxx right there. He's got all the swag, the cash, the big office, the suites. Really a showcase lawyer. And whenever he plays a role, he's going to put his all into it. I'm looking forward to seeing, number one, Jamie Foxx bounce back from whatever he was dealing with over the last year or so and get into this movie about a North Carolina Central University alum who was one of the best and most prominent lawyers taking on big corporations and getting this one over. Tommy Lee Jones is also in this movie, big time cast. So shout out to Jamie for playing this role as we move forward.
Absolutely. And that does it for us this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on the Grind City Media app or Grind City Media YouTube channel, wherever you're listening, watching this app. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you again next week. For Mike, I'm CJ. Everybody take care.